morning, everybody. We'll get started here in just about 1 minute. All right, thanks everybody for joining. It is Tuesday, August 29th, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're just doing a bit of a live public open house to let you know, essentially, this is what we do with the chart guys every single day, 3 live streams a day. We're going to do a little pre-market prep. We're going to watch the market open for the first hour, see what shapes up. And a bit after the open, I will take a request thread from Chart Guys members that's in our Slack chat room community, where most of the magic happens, where we're all interacting with each other on a daily basis. So, getting started, first things first, what we're looking at right now is a tightening daily range on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. And we've also got to factor in the fact that it is what I consider the last week of the summer. And that's just because we've got, the last week of August, we've got the Labor Day holiday on Monday, and then we head into September and into the fall season. And so I am looking for things to be slow this week, at least for the next couple of days. And that for me means I need to adjust my trading with the price action. So if I'm anticipating a daily equilibrium, and today we are going to be keeping an eye out for the bears to try and set daily lower highs to continue tightening up. If that's the premise of what I feel is the most likely scenario, then again, the definition of an equilibrium is constricting prices and constricting volume, which means constricting volatility. And for me, volume and volatility is directly synonymous with opportunity. So if volume and volatility are constricting, that means opportunity is constricting as far as, a day trading, day-to-day basis. And then once these tightening daily ranges break, we will get volume and price expansion and opportunity expansion. So I try and line up my trading with that. So what we would need to see for the bears to convincingly give us a daily lower high today is breaking the lows of yesterday. And with where we're currently shaping up, we are pretty much right where we closed yesterday. So just looking at SPY on the hourly, we've got a triple top of resistance. The high of yesterday rejected the price 3 times. And we've got a base of support, which held a bunch of times as well. And if we go to the 15-minute time frame from yesterday, you can see all these support holds, all these resistance rejections, and here we are opening the morning right within this range. If I want to be an aggressive bear, and the way that equilibriums work is essentially, once you recognize an equilibrium is likely, just going back to the futures chart, you generally get a couple chances to trade within it, and then it gets tight to the point where you just wait for the break. And so this would be a scenario where we keep an eye out for the potential of a lower high. And then once that lower high is set, for me, that means waiting for the break at that point, because we just get so tight that there is, again, a limited amount of opportunity within that range. And so if we're going to see that daily lower high set, the bears would want to reject from that triple top yesterday and head down and break that support. And that support on SPY is 440.86. So an aggressive bear is going to try and top fish, looking for a play off of this resistance zone or watching for a break with 0 follow through. And we know the burden's on bears to take out the hourly supports as the first indication that the daily lower high is being set. And looking at the Nasdaq, there's more space for the daily lower high here, so we're a bit more confident that that's the most likely scenario. And it's the same thing looking at QQQ on the hourly from yesterday. Tightening range, definitely a zone of resistance up near the high of the day, and a base of support down near the low. And so we're opening with resistance potentially in play first thing. And again, we're watching to see, can the bears reject the price from resistance and head down and break support? And again, personally, I'm going to be real patient, and I'm going to want to find a level where I can say that's either the daily low or high or I'm wrong. So I am keeping an eye out for a potential short on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, but I'm going to be a bit patient to see how this morning plays out for at least the first 20, 30 minutes before acting. And again, a more aggressive bear might act sooner than that in the first 5, 10 minutes to try and make a short entry and put a stop over that high of yesterday with a bit of wiggle room. So that's one setup that I'm looking for, is a broader market daily low or high. And there's another setup in NVDA that I'll talk about here in just a moment. But first, we're going to run down the commodities here. So the dollar is still real strong. This 12-hour uptrend has consistently been holding for a very long time. Daily uptrend as well. And we're up near the high. And the way that I'm viewing things right now with correlation with the metals, I pretty much care most about the dollar and the relationship with equities, crypto, and metals. And right now, the metals over the last week or so have been bouncing, and I consider that like they're swimming against the correlation current. The dollar is the current right now for me, and the dollar is bullish. And we know there's generally an inverse relationship with the metals, and so I consider gold swimming against the current. And my mindset is, okay, we can swim against the current for a certain amount of time, but if the current keeps going, then the bulls are going to get tired and then start to resume following the current. So the question really for this week is the current going to change? Meaning, is the dollar going to shape up weekly consolidation and help the metals bounce further? Or is the current going to stay the same with the dollar uptrend and the metals are going to start weakening again? And gold just confirmed a quick little daily uptrend yesterday, but at the moment there's no follow through there. So I would call that a bull break with no follow through. And again, have to be cautious of, if the dollar stays strong, there's a rising wedge type of setup now with the bull break zero follow through. This is the 4-hour time frame on gold. And silver's holding up a good bit better. Silver is a potential daily bull flag still and has not broken resistance yet in any meaningful way, but we are still hanging out right there. And again, if I'm a silver bull or a gold bull, I'm fine with, the metals just trade sideways, just tread water, and ideally seeing the dollar weaken at some point in the near term. But again, I've been watching for the dollar to start weekly consolidation for the last 2 weeks, and it just is not doing it. So have to keep reminding ourselves that. The miners yesterday confirmed a daily uptrend. They've got a lower open shaping up. And so again, it's not a time where it's easy to have confidence in the metal bulls until we see that dollar weakness helping things out. It's essentially a checklist. If you want to see everything aligning for confidence, it's the one thing that's missing is the dollar weakness here. Oil. So I'm watching oil for the potential of a daily inverse head and shoulders. We got the inventory report tomorrow. If we fail to break daily resistance of 81.75, we're going to watch for the bulls to try and shape up that inverse head and shoulders to try and shape up the weekly higher low. It is still a possible weekly bull flag at this point. 4-hour time frame, still an uptrend. If we lose the 4-hour uptrend, daily lower high is likely being set. Natural gas. Natural gas has been a bit tricky on the futures chart. We had a gap up on Sunday night. We've got a gap now due to the contracts rolling over. But what's most important for me on natural gas is when we top out into daily consolidation, can we confirm an uptrend? When's the last time we set a clear daily higher low and higher high in natural gas? And the answer is it has not happened since the end of June. So we've essentially now gone 2 months without a clear daily higher low and higher high. There's been some big bull moves along the way, but no confirmed daily uptrends, and so we just give those moves back. And Bitcoin's still boring and sideways, not much going on here. It's essentially a 4-hour equilibrium yesterday into today, just viewing it like this. And one thing to be aware of with crypto and the crypto stocks, MARA and Riot, which we'll look at in just a moment, is there's a number of events this week which could have a significant impact on volatility. And the first is today, there's the potential of a decision out of the Grayscale SEC court case. And if Grayscale were to win, that would be bullish crypto and these stocks. And then on Friday, we have a bunch of potential ETF decisions. Now, the general consensus of what we've been seeing with this is we just delay. We get to the deadline and then we delay, and they delay as much as they can until they cannot delay any further, and then they give a decision. So the probability dictates delaying and not getting decisions this week, but we just have to be aware that there is the possibility of those headlines coming out, which would very significantly impact price in the short term if that were to happen. So if we're in any trades, whether it's bullish or bearish, we just need to be aware that there's the possibility on 2 different days this week for a headline to drop that would see a massive spike in volatility if that were to happen. But checking in on the crypto stocks, they're still lead bears at this point, just in the sense that, they're struggling to get any kind of bounce going. MARA double topped with the high of Friday yesterday to the penny. 1094 is a clear resistance level. Riot broke the high of Friday by a couple pennies, but no follow through. Again, just complete bear control for weeks. And that bear control has been slowing, but the bulls have yet to prove one thing over the last week of trading. And essentially my mindset for crypto and these stocks, again, it goes back to the dollar. If the dollar is strong, I do not have any confidence in Bitcoin. And if I don't have any confidence in the Bitcoin bulls, then I don't have any confidence in these crypto stock bulls. And coin is the same thing. Weak on the daily and watching the weekly stair step drop. Space for the higher low, but no sign that that is shaping up. So again, my trading activity, to go along with talking about how I'm slowing down while the equilibrium in the broader market forms, my trading activity in these crypto stocks, if you look at what it was here and here versus the last, week plus of trading, it's my trading activity, the dollar volume that I've traded has dropped to 10% or lower than what it was during those periods of volatility. And again, that's just the essential part of being a trader, where once we gain experience, we just adjust our trading activity with the market environment. And so that's the part of trading, that's a part of trading that for me is reactive. Okay, I see ranges tightening, I see things slowing down, I react to that information by slowing down my own trading as well. And then again, we know that tightening ranges then break and lead to volatility. I mean, this is the perfect example. MARA was sideways, nothing going on. Again, I was trading it actively, not trading it, and then massive expansion of volume and price. I mean, that's your textbook example of a tightening range of no opportunity leading to opportunity when it breaks. Chinese names getting some headlines over the last few days. China keeps pumping out these headlines, reducing the costs of taxes on trading. They're trying to bring liquidity in. And it is, the stocks are responding bullish to it. We've got BABA looking for a second gap up open in a row. And so we've got a clear hourly uptrend on these Chinese names and a daily uptrend in some of them as well. But we're not going to forget the bigger picture where, let's say for BABA, anything under 102.50 is just a weekly lower high. And a lot of people have, there's a lot of bearish sentiment around China on social media where people are saying essentially, this is, a last ditch effort and it might work for a bit, but once, this doesn't work, then what? And so keeping an eye out for the possibility that we set weekly lower highs, but also watching the retracement size to determine most likely scenarios. It's nice to be aware of narratives, but it's price action which matters most. And so if the BABA bulls were able to get 50% weekly bounce retracement, that is going to create space for a weekly higher low attempt when we do top out. So we'll see when these weekly bounces top out, but they're leading in the sense that, SPY right now on the weekly doesn't have a bounce underway yet. It's still a stair-step drop over the last month. So BABA, FXI, K-Web, these are the ETFs in Chinese names that are benefiting, and they are all pretty much gapping up for a second day in a row and following through with their weekly bounce at the moment. NIO, Chinese EV name, had earnings today. It's a clear bearish reaction. And so with that, we're going to see a gap down open, and bigger picture, we're still very weak where, we've topped out for a while now in the sense that we had a weekly stair-step pattern. It broke bearish at 1367, and here we are testing $10 in pre-market. So weekly stair-step up, weekly stair-step down. We are going to look for a higher low compared to $7, but there's no sign of it being set. And at the moment, we have a daily and hourly downtrend as our guide. And when we do get a bounce here on this earnings reaction, we're just going to look for an hourly lower high, anything under 1103. So the bears have control of the short term on NIO. Just be aware that when you have a news reaction, whether it's a headline or an earnings report, RSI is much less useful. So I love RSI as a tool, but it has to be under the right conditions. And if it's an earnings reaction, RSI means nothing to me. So the bears have control in the short term. We're not going to forget that we're looking for a weekly higher low, bigger picture. But even then, because of the retracement size on NIO, we will just be looking for a weekly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. XPEV is another Chinese EV name, and it is reacting to NIO, but much less significantly. This is a lead Chinese bull name that has been bouncing now for the last couple of weeks and has an hourly uptrend as our guide and a little daily higher low pattern. So out of the two, XPEV, and we can measure it, XPEV divided by NIO shows us it is way stronger, and it just hit the strongest it has been compared to NIO in the last year and a half. So with that information, what I like doing in different sectors is finding a lead bull and a lead bear. And if the Nasdaq dictates weakness, I look bearish on the weaker name. And if the Nasdaq is dictating strength, I look bullish on the stronger name. And so it's very clear that XPEV is the bull out of the two, and NIO is the bear out of the two. CCJ, uranium name, still going to keep a close eye on this one because this is the most bullish chart out of any stock that I'm currently watching, just with a clear monthly, weekly, daily, hourly uptrend, hitting price levels with no resistance for the last decade plus. Daily bull flag just confirmed, hourly higher low set yesterday at the low of the day, and just watching to see how long the bulls can keep this control grinding higher. New key support on the daily is 35.15 as a benchmark level. Bulls that are walking up stops are now using that level as a guide. And again, just uranium names gaining a little bit of momentum over the last couple of weeks. So keeping an eye on CCJ as a lead market bull. One setup I'm watching on NVDA. So let's talk about relative strength and weakness. So just as I talked about NIO and XPEV there, we have relative strength in XPEV and relative weakness in NIO. And relative strength and weakness are often changing. The number one reason you will see relative strength and weakness change is when the individual name you're watching hits a key level of its own. And yesterday was a really good example with 3 examples we're going to go over real quick of relative strength and weakness. Tesla yesterday morning had relative strength pre-market with a gap up open. It had relative strength in the first couple minutes. I mean, literally the first, 2 minutes of trading. And then we rejected from a resistance zone, and it turned into relative weakness very quickly for the next 30 minutes of trading. And we dropped pretty darn hard, 3% plus. And so you can see the resistance zone here. Where does it come from? Well, if we look at extended hours from last week, the top of the entire move last week in extended hours, we topped out at 243.75, 244.05, so essentially 244. And then pre-market yesterday, we hit that level and broke it. And this is key because, I used to treat, as an earlier trader, I used to treat support and resistance as concrete lines in the sand. And more, whether it's, I'm just observing it more or whether bots and algos are adjusting how they trade, it's more zones where you can break a level, but if it's with zero follow through, it still acts as resistance. So just for example, Tesla broke 244.05 yesterday, first thing. And that was, just checking my mic real quick. Yep, mic's good. So that was, we broke it by pennies and then rolled over. And NVDA was the exact opposite. NVDA started yesterday with a significant amount of relative weakness, just absolute dump all morning. And then we broke key support. And that support was 450. We broke it with a crushed 5-minute RSI and a crushed 2-minute RSI. And there was zero bear follow through on the 450 break. And that significant relative weakness then changed to significant relative strength because we hit a support zone. You look at 450, 452s. So keep an eye on that. One more example, XBI. XBI yesterday morning, or really the afternoon. Where was it? The morning. So relative strength on the morning. We come up and we hit daily resistance by 4 pennies. We reject. And then it turns into relative weakness for the next hour plus. So again, just real quick, something to write down as a general market rule. Relative strength and relative weakness is very much worth paying attention to. The number one reason it will shift is when the individual name you're watching hits a key level and reverses from it. And there's countless other examples, but that is the number one reason you'll see that relative strength and weakness shift. So back to NVDA for today. So NVDA today, what am I looking for? Yesterday gave me enough confidence in the size of this hourly bounce that I feel the most likely scenario is an hourly higher low to be the result of any consolidation today, this morning. So anything above 448 is an hourly higher low. The question, so I can make that thesis, an hourly higher low is very likely to form. The question is, how much retracement size do we see before that hourly higher low forms? And we pull up our fib retracements and we go from the low of yesterday to the high. And if we see a little morning weakness, that hourly consolidation will be underway. If we hold 382 retracement, it's a potential bull flag. If we pull back to 50% plus retracement, then we look for the potential of an hourly equilibrium to tighten up for the majority of the day. So how much we pull back on the morning is going to dictate the probabilities of what the most likely scenario is from there. Both scenarios favor an hourly higher low, but it's what we expect after the hourly higher low that differs based on the retracement size. So if I want to be a bull, I want to see if NVDA drops when the bell rings here and gets to 5-minute oversold conditions, I'm keeping an eye out to see if oversold short-term conditions mark an hourly higher low. So NVDA hourly higher low is a setup that bulls are watching for today. We have to keep the broader market in mind. The last thing that I would want to see if I'm looking for an hourly higher low entry on NVDA would be for QQQ to be testing the low of yesterday. I need to see QQQ maintaining the hourly uptrend, and ideally, we pull back on the morning, NVDA sets an hourly higher low, and then the Nasdaq breaks the high of yesterday to tell us we're not setting the daily lower high yet, we have not topped out on this bounce yet, and that would obviously help NVDA bulls set that hourly higher low and look for the daily higher low to be set. And, you not technically a daily higher low because, again, we broke that 452 level, but essentially looking for the daily bounce to get underway. And then we're going to look for a daily lower high on NVDA because it's a very wide range. There's a ton of space for that daily lower high to form. So if bulls can confirm the hourly uptrend, we're then going to watch the hourly uptrend as our guide, keeping an eye out for a lower high. Could this be a head and shoulders pattern? That's a possibility. If the bears are able to confirm a daily downtrend, momentum would significantly shift to begin to favor the bears on NVDA. But for now, in the short term, again, there's space for that hourly higher low. So that's what I'm looking for. So Tesla, I'm finding clarity on the 4-hour time frame. And Tesla has a double top and a double bottom, essentially. Again, I'm treating it like zones, not a concrete price level. 226 to 227 on Tesla is support, and 244 is resistance. And there's a little bit of relative weakness, again, from yesterday, where this is possibly an hourly bear flag. And so, I can have a setup, as I just mentioned, I want a name that I look at bullish or bearish. NVDA and Tesla are not in the same sector, but they're both major Nasdaq components. So if I have confidence in Nasdaq strength, I'm watching for the NVDA hourly high or low. And if the Nasdaq starts to show us weakness, I'm looking for Tesla to potentially confirm this hourly bear flag and head back down towards that support zone of 227 and 226. So a simple statement on Tesla would be, if we can't get over the bounce high from the end of yesterday, we'll essentially just call it 240. If we can't get over 240, the bears are looking for an hourly lower high to be the result of that bounce. So again, keeping an eye out to see if Tesla is going to keep some relative weakness. And then if the Nasdaq sees a pullback towards its low of yesterday, we'll be looking at Tesla to try and confirm the hourly downtrend. I don't have a ton of clarity on the daily chart for Tesla, which is why I'm sticking with the 4-hour, because those two support and resistance levels are much more clear for me. But it's all going to be based on the Nasdaq and how it breaks this tightening daily range. With regards to our other major sectors, another key factor for me today, XLF and XLV yesterday both rejected from the high of their current bounce attempts on the daily chart by pennies. And so if we break the lows of today, or of yesterday today, that's going to be a convincing rejection. If we don't break the lows of yesterday, we're going to hang out, right under resistance and still keep it within striking distance. And if we break the lows of yesterday, it's a convincing rejection. And so both XLF and XLV have that setup. And so one thing that I'm watching, to try and answer the question, is SPY going to set a daily low or high? Well, if XLF and XLV break their lows of yesterday, the probabilities of the answer being yes increase significantly. So I'm going to be watching those major sectors to see how they respond to the resistance rejections yesterday. Do bears follow through or not? As far as the other major tech names, again, everything is looking the same in regards to their tightening daily ranges, and the bulls are attempting to confirm daily uptrends, and the hourly is our short-term guide. If we keep hourly uptrends, we have not topped out on the daily bounce. This is Apple right now. So if we lose the hourly uptrends, then the daily lower high is likely shaping up. So I'm looking at Apple and saying, all right, we're going to test the high of yesterday first thing. If we fail to break it, anything above 178.55 is an hourly high or low. And the burden is on bears to break the hourly uptrend if a daily lower high is going to shape up. And so again, in general, I don't like bullish entries on most names, knowing that the daily lower high has the possibility of shaping up today or tomorrow. But the difference is, on something like NVDA, the amount of space the bulls have to work with makes me a bit more confident. What if NVDA bulls show up first thing and break the high of yesterday right away? I would still be patiently waiting for hourly consolidation to be looking for an entry. Because again, it's a straight up bounce from the low of yesterday, and we know an hourly uptrend will have to confirm if that bounce is going to continue to follow through. So I have to see the hourly consolidation if I'm going to be looking for that long entry. One name that does look a little bit different than peers is Google. The daily chart's fairly similar in the sense that it's the possibility of a tightening range. But one thing that I am watching is both Amazon and Google still being more bullish on their weekly charts because they're in weekly uptrends with weekly EMA 12 support. And Amazon as well. If Amazon can follow through, and Amazon had some clear weakness yesterday as well. But if Amazon is able to maintain a weekly high or low here and hold ideally EMA 12 support, it's still going to be holding on just fine, bigger picture. In an ideal world, I want to see these patterns break bullish into clear weekly bounces, and then into the start of September, we're going to be watching for the possibility of weekly lower highs. For example, what that would look like on Amazon is a potential head and shoulders. If we hold the uptrend and support, we bounce, but we fail the high and then roll over, that would be the head and shoulders confirming. And so a lot of people are watching that on the broader market. And it's not as much of a weekly head and shoulders. You'd have to zoom in 2-day time frame. A lot of people are viewing this as a left shoulder, and there's our head, and now the right shoulder is trying to form. But again, what I just want to see for clarity, if I'm going to have the most clear setup for heading into the end of the year, it's a weekly bounce. And then the big question will be, do bears confirm the weekly downtrend for the 3-month lower high and long-term tightening range into 2024? Or do bears fail to confirm the weekly downtrend and it's a monthly bull flag? But that scenario only plays out if these tightening daily ranges that are forming, which may continue to form for another few days, if they break bull. So I'm not sitting here with high conviction that they're going to break bull, but I know that in terms of having the most clarity going forward into Q4, I want to see that bull break to give me that setup for the weekly bounce and the potential to then be watching for that weekly lower high. So again, it's always, I don't want to get ahead of myself or confuse people because it's always one time frame at a time. I don't care about the weekly chart right now until we get this daily tightening range resolved. As soon as, and that's the way I approach all trading, is I watch a clear pattern on whatever time frame it is, and then as soon as it resolves itself, I zoom out, and then I determine what do I feel is the most likely scenario on that time frame. And that ensures that I'm keeping continuity of how all these different time frames are relating to each other. The last thing you want to do is be looking at a 5-minute equilibrium and it breaks bull, and then you just take that as a bull signal without realizing that we're still shaping up for an hourly lower high in a prolonged hourly downtrend. So it's essentially ensuring that we're not tunnel vision focused on one time frame, that we're aware of the relationship of all these different time frames with each other as they play out. So here we are heading into the open, and we do have the highs of yesterday closer in play on SPY and QQQ than the lows of yesterday. So again, that means the burden is on bears if they're going to prove to us that the daily lower high is potentially being set right now. Because again, if SPY and QQQ break their high of yesterday, that's essentially a signal to us saying the bounce has not topped out yet, the daily lower highs are not being set yet, and the bulls are keeping their bounce control. So key resistance tests and aggressive bears are going to be watching for potential top fishing plays off of that resistance. And I personally am going to be a bit more patient, knowing that, again, even if we pull back a bit on the morning, QQQ, if we hold 364.25, it is still an hourly uptrend. So I care about the hourly higher lows the most as my guide. So here's the open. A little bit of relative weakness in AI first thing. We've got a thunderstorm brewing in the background. So AI is quickly breaking the low of yesterday. We'll see if that means anything for growth stocks as a whole. ARKK is the ETF I look at for growth stocks. Its low of yesterday, 40.88, is potentially in play this morning. Overall, nothing is glaringly standing out for relative strength and weakness. We can see most things are hovering around where they closed yesterday. Amazon's trying to have a little bit of relative strength. It's the only, well, actually Google clearly has relative strength. I take that back. So Google's over the high of yesterday. They had a headline this morning. Google to announce AI enhancements. Throw that AI word out there. It definitely helps. So again, clear weekly relative strength on that Google chart. And over that high of yesterday. Still anything under 134.25 is a daily lower high on Google, but hourly uptrend remains intact. As far as Amazon, high of yesterday on Amazon is 133.95 coming into play. Weaker yesterday, a little bit of strength this morning. We'll see if that can keep up. Again, if we can't get over that high of yesterday, that initial relative strength can very quickly turn into weakness. So bulls want to break that high of yesterday as soon as possible. We'll keep an eye on volume in SPY and QQQ. Generally, after the first 30 minutes, I gauge what the volume is to affirm or deny my own trading activity. Because again, if I'm, very actively ripping off a few trades and then I recognize that SPY's volume is the lowest it's been in a week and a half, that will tell me to slow things down a bit. So QQQ chopping around, not a whole lot of information here first thing. It is now trying to get a little bit more convincing of a new high of the day. We've got the high of yesterday, 367.71, little less than $1 away. Tesla, that hourly resistance level from yesterday is approaching 239.68. And one thing we can say is Google bulls are positioned real well if the Nasdaq can break the high of yesterday to keep this daily bounce going. SPY is dead flat, 0.00. Financial sector is slightly weaker so far this morning. Low of yesterday, 34.07, will be a key support to be keeping an eye on for XLF. Amazon is breaking the high of yesterday. So initially here, first 3 minutes, Google and Amazon standing out a bit stronger, and the financial sector standing out a bit weaker. AI did see a fairly quick little dip there, or I should say NVDA did. And that technically is some hourly consolidation. Bulls would love for an hourly higher low to be set that quickly. So NVDA had that quick little drop and a quick, almost a 1% bounce at this point. And so if bulls can get over 470, I would consider that an hourly little bull flag confirming. So what a real aggressive bull on NVDA is going to look for is an entry on 1 minute consolidation using the low of the day as a stop, and their thesis will be that's the hourly higher low or I am wrong. QQQ bulls approaching that high of yesterday. SPY is not, and that's because the financial sector is holding SPY back a little bit. So again, that resistance 367.71 is now being tested on QQQ. Another thing the bulls want to see on QQQ is the next time we see 5 minute consolidation is confirm an uptrend. We oftentimes see morning moves that are significant but then lack follow through. So confirming those trends can definitely add some confidence. The bears are going to do their best to defend against this resistance. Tesla is trying to join the relative strength side of things. Again, got a pretty even mix for the major names on my screen that are Nasdaq related. Half of them are red, half of them are green right now. So here's NVDA pulling back a bit, whether you're on the 1 minute or 2 minute time frame. Bulls will need to set the higher low there and then get over that high of yesterday if we're going to get any morning bull follow through. And this is where watching the Nasdaq is key as well if you're looking at an individual name, because we know if the Nasdaq does not break the high of yesterday, if the bears successfully defend this resistance, that individual name bulls aren't going to go very far. I can already tell it's a bit of a slower morning. Again, not surprising with the daily pattern and the last week of August, but I can tell just because when you stare at this screen every single day for years, there's a speed with volume where things are flashing very fast. And like right now, NVDA, the flashing of the numbers changing is showing me there's a decent amount of volume there, but I compare it to everything else. It's pretty much the time in between trades. You know, it's tick, tick, tick. And when it's a really high volume day, it's tick, 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 tick. Tesla is over that hourly resistance. That high of yesterday is still a bit of a ways away. 244 resistance zone. Financial sector bulls would love to see a new high of the day to give some more cushion above the low of yesterday's support that we held by 3 pennies so far. Remember, we've got some economic data coming out at 10 a.m. JOLTS, job openings. So we'll likely see that, especially on a low volume and volatility day. That will be apparent on the 5 minute time frame when that happens in 22 minutes. So here's NVDA heading back towards the low of the day. Again, a rejection for the Nasdaq from the high of yesterday by 20 cents, 18 cents first thing. We would need a new low of the day on the Nasdaq for a very convincing rejection. But this is where those aggressive bears are top fishing. And if NVDA hits a new low of the day, that will tell us that the hourly higher low is not being set yet. And that's where, again, the perfect example of strong move up first thing, but never confirmed any trend, whether it was the 1 minute, no time frame, had an uptrend, and we just pulled back under the high of yesterday resistance by less than $1. So XLF and XLV are at the high of the day, noticing a small inverse relationship with the Nasdaq. We'll see how that continues to shape up. We've certainly seen that many times this year, this summer. Just as a quick comparison there to visualize that, we've got QQQ on the 2-minute time frame. So 3 green candles into 2 red candles. You look at XLF, essentially 3 red candles into now the green candles. XLV's had a bull start. That's a good sign for SPY and XLV to be getting over 134.39 double top. And that is a weekly higher low being set. Now we got another tightening range. So the healthcare sector, 3rd largest holdings, I'd have to double check that because it updates, but one of the largest sector holdings in the S&P 500. We've got our high, higher low, lower high, higher low. Now a 2-month long weekly equilibrium that is going to break in September sometime. And that's going to have significant implications on the broader market. So that's a longer term pattern to certainly be keeping an eye on. Again, I don't really trade the healthcare sector at all, but I watch it almost daily, definitely daily, because of its impact as one of the pieces of the puzzle for the S&P 500. So we'll be paying attention to that weekly pattern there. XLF got the new high of the day. But high of yesterday, really it's 34.31 is the level that needs to break for XLF to join in breaking daily resistance, just like the healthcare sector just did. Solar sector bulls standing out a bit. They've been chopping sideways. They've been very weak overall. Big drop the last 5 weeks. But building this base of support, key resistance test right now, 57.06. If we get over that level, the weekly bounce will then be underway. There's a ton of space for a weekly lower high. But that will at least be some short-term relief setting up. And why that matters is the solar sector, TAN, the lowest level we've hit in years, 55.54. Why are we basing out here? Look at that price action right at that support. In daily oversold conditions, now no longer oversold, but successful defense initially. FSLR, one of the major names, is not breaking bull at the moment. Daily inside bar currently. There's that NVDA volatility. So while the market doesn't have a lot of volatility, NVDA certainly does. So strong start, down to the low of the day, V-shape to the high of the day. Let's see if we shape up a megaphone. If we were to pull back into 2-minute consolidation to be a megaphone, but we're testing that high of yesterday right now. Just 1 minute stair steps in both directions. Increasing bull volume's a good sign. Broke that high of yesterday. So we can say that that is an hourly bull flag confirming. Definitely a tricky one, you know, in order to try and nail that hourly higher low. Not an easy morning setup for it. QQQ over the high of yesterday, so that's bulls telling us the bounce has not topped out yet. NVDA certainly benefiting from that. And so now the next question is, can the S&P 500 do the same thing? Nasdaq just told us it's not done on this daily bounce. The hourly uptrend is going to remain our guide. Low of today is now a key support. This could be a rising wedge. If we were to keep an eye on the overnight high of the Nasdaq, if we were to lack follow through, I would be keeping an eye out for a rising wedge type of setup. But I'm not going to fight the bulls here. This is more just observing to see if there's going to be something later in the day that wants me to make a bearish attempt at the daily lower high. But now if we're going to see follow through, we got to see the S&P 500 join in, and it is getting over that high of yesterday. So now with no clear resistances nearby from regular trading hours, it is worth watching these futures pre-market highs from early this morning as the next level. And again, it's the same thing with the S&P 500. These bull breaks have been lacking follow-through. So we'll see if that remains the case or not. But the overnight high, or the pre-market high, is now the next resistance level to be watching. The next NVDA resistance is 478.05. One good thing for the bulls overall is the fact that XLF and QQQ are at the high of the day at the same time. You can see my screen has significantly shifted in the last 10 minutes. There was a whole bunch more red. And now one by one, everything going green. Microsoft is still standing out a bit weaker. NVDA bulls following through a bit. So again, I didn't get a long entry on NVDA. That was not the setup I was looking for as far as first thing. My preferred setup there would be some more timely hourly consolidation. NVDA certainly volatile and acts fast at the open, but if I could have had, my ideal scenario would have been give me a clear little 5-minute downtrend on the morning and then look for that 5-minute trend change later morning to set that hourly high or low. That just gives a lot more clarity and clear levels to play off of versus the, resistance or the bull move into the bear move into the bull move, which I find a lot more choppy. Still need to confirm some kind of uptrend here, so whether it's the 2-minute or the 5-minute, next consolidation for NVDA. Bulls want to see a healthy higher low without significant retracement. Nasdaq, overnight high coming into play. We actually broke it. S&P 500 overnight high, just breaking it as well. So now we're going to be watching the retracement size, next consolidation. If we give back half of this morning move, that would be the first sign of a bull break, no follow through. But again, I'm not looking to short this move right now. I need an indication from the bears that the top of the daily bounce is shaping up. And with both SPY and QQQ breaking the high of yesterday, we don't have that at the moment. I'll be keeping an eye on that Tesla resistance zone, 244. If we were to head straight up to that level, being extended on short-term time frames, it would be a potential short for bears to look at. Again, a top fish kind of play. Let's check in on crypto real quick. These crypto stocks have a little bit of green. Bitcoin, 15-minute uptrend. So that 4-hour equilibrium is tightening up on Bitcoin. MARA back to the 1094 double top test. So that's a key resistance that's coming into play. Financial sector currently pulling back just under 34.31 key resistance. Keep an eye on that level for the rest of the day. Nice recovery by ARKK. And AI, that initial little morning weakness, ARKK, guess where we bottomed and guess where strength arrived. So ARKK, quick little pullback. Low of yesterday was 40.88. Double bottom by a penny, straight into bulls showing up. Relative strength was born from a key support hold, key short-term support hold. High of yesterday, test 41.60, broke it by a couple pennies. Bulls definitely want more follow through. And again, this is the kind of chart on the 5-minute where All right, great start. Next consolidation. Keep it healthy and confirm the 5-minute uptrend if we're going to break the high of yesterday with follow through. But for the most part, the information we're getting on the morning, again, is the bounce is not topped out yet. We are not shaping up daily lower highs. Bulls still have some control, and the hourly uptrend will remain our guide. And the more bulls keep control through the morning, the more I'm going to start considering the low of today as that new hourly higher low, as our uptrend guide. Again, JOLTS data in 10 minutes now. Posting a ticker request thread in the Chart Guys chat room. MARA bears are hoping that QQQ shapes up 5-minute consolidation soon to align with this 1094 double top of resistance. So SPY is a 5-minute stair step from the open, and when we do see the next 5-minute consolidation from here, we're going to gauge the retracement size. Bears want to see 50% retracement plus if we're going to consider that an hourly bull break on the futures with no follow through. CRWD, 5-minute consolidation underway. So again, what you'll often see is a strong move in one direction or the other, and then we give back the majority of it. So that this retracement is so key. Confirm that uptrend to confirm that the bulls can keep control for the morning. If we retrace 50% plus, we then scout the equilibrium. So no red flags at this point, trying for healthy retracement to confirm the uptrend. Zooming out bigger picture, base of support 140.52. Held that with the low of today, but earnings are tomorrow. So essentially we know bigger picture, the earnings are going to dictate whether this base of weekly support can hold or not. You can see the bulls are attempting to defend the 140 zone, and they're defending it up to this point. But bearish reaction to earnings will confirm this downtrend on the weekly, and bullish reaction will affirm that that 140 level is a solid support. Still in an hourly downtrend, I would consider anything under 148 an hourly lower high. So if we didn't have earnings, we would need to see bounce follow through. We would need to confirm the hourly uptrend. But for right now, it's the 5-minute uptrend trying to confirm to get the hourly bounce going. So again, TAN solar sector, solid start, breaking resistance, but same deal. We got to confirm a healthy 5-minute higher low and higher high to keep that morning control. And the next resistance level from here is 57.37. And then daily EMA 12. And one thing that is missing is FSLR. Again, a major factor in the sector is not breaking bull right now. So you can look at that two ways. You can say, well, TAN is positioned well if FSLR gets this daily bounce going. And you can also say, TAN broke bull, but I'm cautious because FSLR is not breaking bull. So have to keep a close eye on FSLR as it shapes up a daily inside bar at the moment. It's essentially been sideways for 3 days. GS, getting over the bounce high of 327.49. So again, same mindset. We could say, okay, XLF has not broken resistance and GS has. So GS is a little bit stronger. We could say GS is positioned well if XLF breaks 34.31 key short-term resistance. We can also say GS bulls are not going to go very far unless XLF breaks 34.31 key short-term daily resistance. So that is essential if we're going to get any follow-through. The next resistance from here is up at 334. We have an hourly uptrend as our guide on GS. So yesterday, hourly tightening range broke bull, following through a bit today. But again, need to see XLF get over 34.31. NVDA, if looking for a long entry at this point, an aggressive bull is going to look for 5-minute consolidation, higher low entry. We have to keep in mind, bigger picture, it's possible that we shape up a daily lower high. For me, I anticipate that a daily lower high is the most likely result of this bounce. It's again just a question of retracement size. Bulls are trying to get 50% plus retracement so that even if we do get that daily lower high, we then have space for that equilibrium, similar to what SPY and QQQ are currently doing. Shop. Same deal, 5-minute higher low trying to form, healthy consolidation at this point. Bulls need to confirm the 5-minute uptrend to keep that morning control. Got the hourly uptrend still going, and bulls are trying to get over 57.17 key daily resistance for this weekly bounce to get some follow through. There's a lot of space for a weekly lower high to be the result of this bounce. We're not going to forget that. But for now, we've got an hourly uptrend as bulls are trying to get to the highest level in the last few weeks. So key resistance approaching 57.17. And you can consider this a daily uptrend confirming if you like. That's a pivot. Granted, it was only one day, but the fact that that weekly bounce is underway. Break of 57.17. Can be considered a daily uptrend confirming. DLTR. Sideways and still very weak. So inside bar yesterday, inside bar today. We know we're not going anywhere unless we break the high or the low of yesterday. So it is possible we form a second daily inside bar in a row. It's just a tightening hourly range right now. 123.20 is a support approaching. Bulls need to gain a 5-minute uptrend if we're going to hold that level and keep tightening up. So essentially just waiting for the inside bars to break. If they break bear, the bears keep their complete control. If they break bull, the daily oversold bounce will be underway, and we'll eventually be scouting that daily lower high, but all about that tightening range right now. So checking back in on SPY, here's that 5-minute consolidation. We're watching what the retracement size looks like. MARA, crypto stock still testing that 1094 double top. Coin is standing out a bit stronger of the crypto stocks today. Daily higher low is set on coin. Bulls need to clear 78.17 to get that weekly bounce underway. Comparing the QQQ 5-minute consolidation to SPY, again still healthy. No red flags on the retracement size at this point. A takeaway for the NVDA move is that's the second time in 2 days a support break with no follow-through has led to a bullish entry opportunity. Yesterday it was that 450 break that went straight into the bounce. And today it was the low of the day break that went straight into a big bounce. So that's noteworthy. What do we do with that information? Number one, if we're placing a stop level, we give more wiggle room because what that move just did is definitely stopped people out at the low of the day before turning around. And number two, bulls can look for an entry. Again, this is very fast day trading, but let's say we break the low of the day and then the 1-minute inside bar breaks bull. If I'm aggressive, okay, I long that 1 minute inside bar bull break, stop goes under that low of the day, because if we break again, then that is follow through. But it's important to learn the characteristic of individual names. Names like NIO break support and resistance right before reversals more than, something like Apple. And so let's see if NVDA is going to start adopting this kind of action where it triggers stops right before reversals based on support and resistance levels. JD. So again, hourly uptrend is our guide. Bulls are hoping for the low of the day to be established as a new hourly higher low, but if we fail the high of the day here, we'll have a 5-minute equilibrium to be watching. It would have to break bull to consider the low of today a new hourly higher low as our guide. JD is definitely one of the weaker Chinese names. This daily bounce is coming off of the low, and you compare that to all these ETFs or BABA, and it was a higher low that this move is coming off of. So hourly uptrend, our guide for these Chinese names. Let's check in on NIO. So NIO flushed on the open. Decent bounce recovery. We'll need to confirm a 5-minute uptrend. XPEV. V-shape, again, relative strength, just so clear. XPEV broke the low of yesterday by a few pennies, right into a high of yesterday break. So what JD needs is, do we have a clear hourly uptrend? Yes. So clear hourly uptrend. When we lose it, we have to confirm a daily uptrend if this weekly bounce is going to get any follow through. And all this is a defense of a long-term key support zone, 31 to 32. We could see it was resistance back here, then support, 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 and now trying to act as support again. So bulls hoping to keep the hourly uptrend as long as possible to create as much space as possible and then eventually confirm a daily uptrend once we top out. Gap filled, 34.41 happened. Now we're looking at 35.58 as the next resistance. CGC, the weakest of the week. All-time low test of 30, nope, not all-time low, 38 test, and then the all-time low of 34.6. Again, it's just as bearish as you can get. For me, I have to see bulls give me a reason to be looking long. Not because we're testing support. That's not a reason for me in such a weak name. Because I know we can bounce 20%, well, 15%, and still be in a daily downtrend. So short term, if we can get over 40 cents, then we'll say it's a successful hold of support initially. But I need give me a daily uptrend confirming to see anything shifting. PALL, tightening daily range. So I'm viewing this as a high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high. Trying to hold support of 112 is a key level. We will need to confirm an hourly uptrend. The liquidity here is very poor. Gaps on the hourly time frame. So if anything, you're just looking to swing. Certainly not a name to day trade, but bulls would have to hold 112 and break 116.56 for this multiple week tightening range to break bullish. For right now, we're smack dab in the middle of that range. That's a big QQQ 5-minute bull flag confirmed on Jolts. So again, that volume standing out on a lower volume morning. Tesla ripping right to that 244 level. NVDA, significant follow-through, positioned well for the bulls there. So bulls definitely winning the morning. Now we have a 5-minute uptrend as our guide on SPY and QQQ. Clear 5-minute higher low set with that bull flag. And so now, SPY is testing daily resistance. Granted, it's the futures that matter more to me because if we break 445.22, that's great, but the high of this bounce You can see on the futures chart, it's further away. So I'm constantly flipping between the ETF and the futures charts just to find where I have the most clarity. But in this instance, this is an important distinction just because we're still 0.5% from the bounce high, whereas SPY is currently, 0.1% from the bounce high. So I'm defaulting to the level that's a bit further away. But this is definitely a good sign for the bulls, where even if we fail this resistance, we've got good space now for another daily higher low. Nasdaq, as we know, has a lot further to go than the S&P 500. But again, bulls are very pleased with the start of today. Not topping out on the bounce, not setting those daily lower highs, and continuing to increase probabilities that this tightening range can break bullish. Tesla is over resistance now. So back to bounce highs. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame for Tesla real quick. So higher low set at 235.35. And now the next resistance level that we're looking at is 251.80. As the weekly bounce is following through. MARA bull follow through over that 1094 double top, quick 1% move. Bitcoin had a bullish response to jolts as well. Let's check the dollar. DXY going bear. Yes, it is. Is that the top? Are we about to start weekly consolidation? Bears would love a break of 103.74 as the first indication. Again, if the dollar tops out and breaks this weekly stair step and starts weekly consolidation, that's bullish stocks for their weekly bounce. That's bullish Bitcoin and bullish metals. Nice recovery for the metals with that dollar weakness. Now following through on that daily bull break for gold. So that's got to be it. If I'm a metal or crypto or whatever bull, stock bull, that's got to be the top for the dollar. Otherwise, I would be wrong. I would be positioning myself for that and exiting if bears do not follow through. CCJ bulls, new 52-week high. Again, just slow and steady uranium. Icing on the cake today for the bulls would be XLF breaking 34.31, which is now a triple top on the daily. But Tesla and NVDA taking the lead bull rolls, along with Google. And what this move is now doing is creating a good bit of space for the hourly uptrend to continue, where next consolidation that we see on the hourly chart, whether it's this afternoon or whenever, we're looking at space being created for the hourly higher low to be the most likely result of next consolidation. Solar sector getting a bit of follow through as FSLR tries to make its way towards the high of yesterday. Again, look at the weekly chart of the solar sector and compare it to the dollar. Very inverse. Big red week, 6 weeks of green, and now a red week. Green week that gave it back, 5 weeks of red, and now a green week. Pretty darn inverse. RBLX need to clear 2778 to get the weekly bounce underway. Still a clear daily downtrend with lots of space to remain in the daily downtrend, but what the bulls are hoping for is to keep the hourly uptrend going and get over daily EMA 12 to create the space for an eventual daily trend change attempt. But we're not going to forget that the most likely result of this bounce is a daily lower high with so much space for it to form. So that hourly uptrend is going to be key. And I would consider today's low of the day a new hourly higher low. And IO is still working on that bounce. Again, have to confirm the 5-minute uptrend. High of the day resistance is 1030. So for the rest of the morning, the 5-minute uptrend is going to be our guide. NVDA has made it back to its next resistance level, which is that 478. Now we're looking at 480 psychological. Meta is definitely staying weaker. We know the Meta bears aren't going to follow through if the Nasdaq bulls stay strong, but it is now one of the only red names on my screen. Meta shaping up a potential rising wedge, 2-minute time frame. Why do I look for a rising wedge? High of the day, straight into consolidation. High of the day, straight into consolidation. So I recognize that's a potential 2-minute rising wedge, and then I zoom out and say, does that align with other longer term time frames? And I can see that anything under 291.45, the high of yesterday, is an hourly lower high. The high of the end of yesterday, 290.56, we just rejected by 9 pennies. So it is aligning with a longer term time frame. But again, I would have to see the Nasdaq show some sign of slowing down if I'm going to look bearish in Meta. But I do know that Meta is clearly the weakest Nasdaq-related major name on my screen for the morning. And it is testing a resistance level. It would be the kind of thing where, you know, if I'm flat, maybe I don't want to fight the Nasdaq trend by shorting Meta, but let's say I've got an NVDA position and I want to let it run and I don't want to sell it here, or Tesla, you know, a stronger name, then maybe I grab a Meta short here for the potential of the rising wedge as a bit of a, you know, little hedge where, all right, let's say we see 15-minute consolidation here. I want to keep my other position, but maybe that Meta bear can offset some of that pullback. Bitcoin 4-hour equilibrium is doing its best to break bull. So again, we're going to keep a close eye on the dollar all day and into tomorrow. I had abandoned keeping an eye on this 12-hour rising wedge because I was sick of it, but we're still responding to these trend lines. What is going to be most important? There's your knee-jerk reaction. Can the bears start to confirm trends? Can we confirm an hourly downtrend? Can we confirm a 4-hour downtrend? That's the only way we're going to shape up weekly consolidation. So probabilities the daily inside or the daily equilibriums can break bull, for me after this morning, are increasing significantly. Even if we don't break it on this test, even if we do still set daily lower highs tomorrow, just thinking about, sentiment. I mean, bears owned Thursday in such a huge way with zero follow through. They owned the entirety of one day, but aside from that one day, bulls have had full control for the last week and a half. And the fact that we're now recovering 80% plus of that drop, and knowing that, if we do break bull here, there's going to be a decent amount of bears from the short term that are underwater that perhaps have to cover and help push it higher. It's essentially, long story short, what I'm saying is, worst case scenario, aside from any out of nowhere headline, even if we fail, we're going to anticipate another daily high or low is most likely because of this bounce retracement size now. Tesla's just a monster on the 5-minute here. Lack of resistance definitely helping. Solar sector following through in a big way. It's the biggest hourly volume and green candle that we've seen in a long time in solar. FSLR is trying to join in here. High of yesterday, test 179.42, did just break. Definitely would keep an eye on the dollar if you're trading anything solar. XLF trying to make its way back to 34.31. Again, that would be icing on the cake. But already it's very clearly a bull control morning. We will eventually, once we top out here, we will eventually zoom out and look for 15-minute higher lows. So that's the next bull entries from here would be, whether it's Tesla, NVDA, tons of space for 15-minute higher lows. We're certainly very extended in the short term, so no bull entries without more clear consolidation. Again, that JOLTS reaction is leading to some overextended RSI, and yes, that RSI is less meaningful because it is a fundamental news reaction, but it definitely tells us that risk reward for long entries up here, not favorable. Checking back in on that Meta potential rising wedge. Bulls are trying to negate it. Silver daily bull flag confirmed. These metals are just positioned so well if the dollar tops out. Checking back in on the crypto stocks. So Riot, daily bounce underway. Key resistance 1131, the initial bounce high. And MARA, key resistance 1188, its bounce high is much further away. MARA divided by Riot shows us that Riot has been stronger the last 4 days. So trying to shape up the weekly bounce. Bitcoin is still battling the high of yesterday resistance, 26.2 thousand. Meta is still this rising wedge. I'm getting a little tempted with Meta short. The play for Meta would be looking for 15-minute consolidation. QQQ still not topping out. Again, wanting it to align with the Nasdaq, seeing some clear 5-minute consolidation at least, ideally 15-minute consolidation. So if this trade is going to come to me, it would be a 2-minute head and shoulders. And I'd put my stop over 291. NVDA still all bulls. Next resistance level, again, very minimal because we dropped so hard post earnings, but 489.50 is the next level I see. Crypto stocks. Oh, Bitcoin just made a big bull move. Huge candle on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin broke the high of yesterday and some stops definitely triggered. And now we're looking at the initial bounce high, 26.8 thousand resistance. And the crypto stocks are definitely forcing some shorts to cover here. So again, that dollar move is triggering the crypto bulls. That MARA 1094 break with very significant follow through now, that double top. Bitcoin is now testing 27,000, so Bitcoin is negating the daily bear flag, and these crypto stocks are responding significantly. They're all up now, double-digit %. Keep in mind, there is still a possible headline today. Oh, it did. That's the headline. Grayscale won the lawsuit. So that's good news for crypto. All right, I'm a short Meta, put my stop over 291, just a low risk top fish play. Looking for QQQ 5-minute consolidation. And looking for Meta to reject from high of yesterday, at least initially. Bulls looking for entries, again, 15-minute time frame, whether it's NVDA, Tesla, MARA, Riot, all these crypto stocks. Looks like they had that initial temporary top being hit here. Got to watch the short-term time frames with this amount of volatility. Target on Meta would be, look to take half, 289.60. But again, half to see QQQ get some 5-minute consolidation going. I like the Meta setup. It's just a question of whether QQQ is going to cooperate here. XLF still keeping 34.31 resistance in play. NVDA pulling back a bit. That might be a temporary top. Plenty of space for a 5-minute higher low to try and form. Bitcoin fresh bounce high. So Riot and MARA have 5-minute stair-step patterns going. That can be potentially a profit-taking guide for bulls in positions and wanting to let it run. But what this is doing is the probability for a Bitcoin ETF is increasing significantly with this ruling. GBTC is the, look at that move. This is on the OTC. It's extremely thinly traded. But crypto and crypto stocks are going to be pricing in the probability for an approved ETF significantly at this point. QQQ is still the high of the day. Bulls keeping their momentum. Big bull day. Growth names are up big time. AI and ARKK is up 4%. So ARKK daily resistance break. Weekly bounce clearly underway. So the Chinese names got the bounces going first thanks to some headlines, and now many other things trying to follow. We've got the S&P 500 is testing the bounce high on futures. We're approaching there, maybe 0.2, 0.3% away. Bitcoin's got a 2-minute stair-step pattern to be keeping an eye on. Tesla's testing 250 psychological. Bulls will certainly be watching the crypto stocks for 5-minute high or low attempts. More patient will wait for 15-minute. More patient will wait for hourly, but this is definitely a fairly significant short-term shift from the significant weakness we had been seeing. Solar sector's up 3% now. XLF resistance test again. Stopped out Meta. QQQ is not topping out. So Meta is now testing high of yesterday resistance. $291.45. And again, probabilities across the board are increasing significantly for daily uptrends to confirm into clear weekly bounces for the vast majority of the market. Still some proven to do on the futures chart for the Nasdaq and S&P 500, but again, to see this kind of recovery from that bear Thursday is very significant of strength. So again, let's just look bigger picture now. Let's say we confirm these daily uptrends on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, which again have not happened, but probabilities increasing today for it eventually. It's all about the weekly into September. This can be a Nasdaq monthly cup and handle. That is on the table as a possibility to new all-time highs. But if we confirm the weekly downtrend, the opposite happens and we have a tightening range. So next week is going to be a pretty critical one. Even though we have no trading on Monday, it's going to be a shortened holiday week. But as we watch for the daily uptrend to try and follow through, it's going to be very critical whether we set these weekly lower highs or not. Because again, those two different paths, we're only going one of those two paths into the end of this year. We've now got 4 months of trading left. And the first couple of weeks of September are going to give us some information that's going to help us change that probability significantly. I am very open to both scenarios playing out. Couple more requests here. Airbnb. So big bull day, getting over short-term resistance. Weekly bounce underway. There is a lot of space for a weekly lower high. Anything under 155. And the hourly uptrend is our guide. A whole bunch of space for an hourly higher low to form next consolidation. Look at that 5-minute stair step. Huge volume. Bitcoin new bounce high. Definitely getting interested in the metals with the dollar weakness. I do have some metal swing positions, but they've been smaller. I would like to add to them. And if we see the dollar shape up a confirmed hourly downtrend, that's the next thing that I need to gain confidence that the weekly consolidation is shaping up. XLF is at 34.31, trying to put the icing on the cake. Need to break it by a few pennies. TLT. So I'm on the weekly time frame. The weekly bounce is underway. Again, pretty inverse to the dollar recently. Anything under 102.70 is a weekly lower high. If we can see 50% bounce retracement, which would bring us, if the bulls can get up to mid 97s, that then creates the space for an eventual weekly trend change attempt as the bulls try and set up a monthly higher low. So this is a monthly lower high, and now we're trying for the higher low, but we know we have to confirm a weekly uptrend for the monthly higher low to be set. Crypto stocks are not going to top out as long as Bitcoin is not topping out. All right. Just a reminder, we've got a webinar this evening, 5 p.m. Eastern, where myself, Lamont, and Lori are going to be talking about bag holding. We all do it. What can we learn from it? Some of our past examples of our own experiences, but that'll be on this YouTube channel at 5 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there. So we're testing daily resistance on the S&P 500 and Nasdaq futures. We know the S&P 500 is closer and it would break first. And the bulls are making a statement today. We have tons of space for 15-minute higher lows, tons of space for hourly higher lows. This is the kind of move where it's, again, RSI out the window in terms of things being overbought on short-term time frames. Keeping an eye on 5-minute stair-step patterns for temporary tops, but then just going to be looking for the higher lows. So a very significant sentiment shifter kind of day. Keep an eye on that dollar. Very bullish day for metals, crypto, and stocks. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be back in the chat room shortly.